Welcome to Left Night with Kendra Zach. And now, here's your host, Kendra Zach.
Hi, everyone. How are you doing today? How's it going, Zach?
Oh, it's going really good, actually. I'm really excited for today's episode. I'm casual. I'm in the t-shirt. I'm ditching the coffee. I'm going to a beer.
We're gonna have a
fun one today, I think.
Episode. Oh my God, that means you're really excited. I'm having a seltzer.
Okay.
In solidarity with the people of Worcester, Massachusetts.
Yeah. Worcester's own, baby.
Worcester's own. Yeah. There's a lot going on with today's episode. I think I think it touches upon some things.
Yes. Why don't you tell us about what you're thinking about?
All right, let me tell you what I'm thinking about, everyone. So obviously, a lot has been going on the past week of world news. Those who tuned in last week may remember the assassination of the Haitian president by what now seems to be a collaboration between some combination of Colombian special forces, Haitian bourgeoisie, a US DEA informant, and who knows who else. I'm guessing the Miami Dolphin mascot will eventually be implicated. You could just tell he's got the Cold War training look in his eyes. But what seems to be clear is that someone somewhere deep within the executive branch of the US got some kind of buy one, get one coupon. Because faster than you could say, I wonder if CNN booked Wyclef Jean for an interview, the media was pivoting away from Haiti and towards their neighbor, Cuba. So this week, we need to talk about Cuba. Obviously, this is an issue more complicated than we have the time or resources to completely cover, but we're going to say if you could get anything out of this, solidarity with Cubans is good, America is bad. Now let's do a brief overview of the history of Cuba. Basically, it goes like Spanish colony, US colony, sovereign nation that's constitution allows for US intervention, US-backed dictatorship / island-wide mob casino, and finally, a socialist republic. So when someone tries to tell you that under socialism, Cubans are not free, it's important to ask them what they think this supposed freedom existed in when they think this supposed freedom existed in Cuba, and for whom did that freedom apply? But more on that later. Let's fast forward to recent times where, you might have heard, there's been a pandemic. In Cuba, much like other countries that were not prioritized for vaccination internationally, is seeing a spike in cases after holding strong for the last year or so. While Cuba leads the world in doctors per capita by a significant margin, their status as the US's enemy has historically created issues with receiving supplies, and as supplies have become more prioritized for COVID response, other sections of their medical coverage have suffered. I mean, not like end up in debt because you went to an out-of-network hospital or switched to veterinary insulin because your job doesn't pay enough to cover the real stuff suffering, but suffering nonetheless. This has led to demonstrations in the streets by a few hundred protesters, to which we cannot totally determine the legitimacy of. Obviously, the Cuban people are entitled to see their basic needs met, and they are allowed to be upset when the standard is not upheld. But it's also impossible to divorce any unrest in Cuba with the US continuous attempts to incite unrest. By some estimates, the CIA made 638 attempts to assassinate Fidel Castro, although officially the US only admits to 8 attempts. Which is a weird number to admit to, right? It's like they're being defensive. Cuba, why are you so mad at us? Because we tried to kill your leader? Oh my God, that was like not even 10 times. Get over it. It's also impossible to divorce the suffering in Cuba from the US's continued embargoes and sanctions. Cuba's ability to trade with other nations is significantly hamstrung because no company doing business with the US is allowed to do business with Cuba. And any ship transporting goods to Cuba must wait 180 days before docking in a US port. So if you were a salesperson and you could only sell to one individual, would you choose the one on a shoestring budget who can only spend on necessities, or the rich one who is infamous for spending money on dumb shit they don't need? The decision is pretty much made for you. And while the US will claim that any food and medical supplies are exempt from the embargo, studies have shown that this is not the case, as they get tied up in the same endless sanctions and regulations as everything else, which are actually growing since the Trump administration added new disincentives. We most recently saw this with Cuba's domestically produced vaccine, where implementation has been halted because the US has made it harder to get syringes imported. And finally, it is essential that we remember how bad a job the capitalist media does in letting people know what's going on in the world. Like we said, they don't really care about Haiti anymore, but they also didn't care about Haiti when thousands of people were demanding the removal of what they justifiably saw as a US puppet leader. Nor will we see anything out of Chile or Colombia or Brazil, all of which have leadership allied with the United States. We won't see the pro-socialist demonstrators in Cuba. They won't even show a union strike in our own country if they could avoid it, because threats to the US empire cannot be covered genuinely. Even when they've covered the latest from Cuba, they've been caught using pictures from Spain, Argentina, and Miami to make it seem like larger numbers are protesting in Cuba. There's also no incentive for them to explain how American actions affect people of Cuba. They will use the term authoritarian without taking the time to explain where that authority is derived, all while broadcasting from a country where police kill with impunity and military actions happen against foreign countries without knowledge or support from its citizens. But that isn't authoritarian. The US is a democracy. Never mind that voting rights are being stripped all over this country. Never mind that 8 million Cubans voted on the most recent constitution in 2019. Meanwhile, everyone who ratified the US Constitution is dead, and most of them were slave owners. We have to make sure to bring democracy to Cuba. Not the kind of democracy where citizens of a country are free of imperialist influence. No, we mean the kind of democracy that keeps sugar exports cheap and gives the yearning Cubans a chance to work at Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville. Good old American exported freedom. Is Cuba perfect? No, but that's not the standard by which we judge any other country. And if anyone's going to judge Cuba, it probably shouldn't be the country that illegally operates a clandestine torture site on Cuba's land against their will. And furthermore, any attempts to remove the Communist Party in Cuba will not result in a better life for Cubans, but a more exploitable one, akin to Haiti and Colombia. So even if you're not a socialist, first of all, what did you think the show was when you clicked on it? But second, you should still be supporting the lifting of sanctions and embargoes against Cuba, which exists only to create suffering and overthrow leadership that, if it was vulnerable, probably would have fallen at some point in the last 60 years. And for comrades out there, especially those in the imperial core, we should be showing solidarity to Cuba, not telling them how they're supposed to be doing socialism according to your all-white reading group. Because, even though this recent uprising is unlikely to change anything, Cuba's continued fight for socialism is integral to the globalist project. And U.S. intervention in Cuba would be bad for both the people of Cuba and the world, especially as the entire planet is hurtling towards a more fiery, climate-changey end. Because when you see people in Miami rallying for the downfall of the Cuban government, and then you see reports that Miami could be underwater by 2040, I think it's fair to say they may not be mad at the correct government. Thank you, and we'll be back after this commercial break.
Hey folks, hope you're enjoying today's show. I want to talk to you really quickly about today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is CoinCoin. For those of you out there who are tired of the old way of using money and just having regular sort of cash and debit, that's sort of, old white man style of money. Well, we're moving on to cryptocurrency and beyond cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is even old man currency now. We're moving on past the Bitcoins and past the Dogecoins to CoinCoin. CoinCoin is the new service by which you'll be paying for everything in the future. And it's starting out now. You can get in on the ground floor with these CoinCoins. I have them right here, see? And I know you're probably thinking, well, those just look like regular U.S. nickels. Well, they're not. These are, well, they are right now, but I'm going to paint them. And then once they're painted, they won't be nickels anymore. They'll be CoinCoins. And then instead of being worth 5 cents, you'll be like, oh, those are the real coins, and those are the ones that were painted. So I know that they're not nickels, and they're actually worth like $50. And then somebody else will be like, yeah, I think they're 80, and then they'll give me $80 for my painted nickels that are coins, and they're not painted nickels anymore at that point. So yeah, I'll make a lot of money, and you'll be able to trade coins for all of your favorite goods and services, just throw your money away, throw it in the trash. It's not worth anything anymore compared to the true value of coins that are, as we said, like $80 maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe 100 coins. Yeah, and it's not defacing. There's a law against a federal offense against defacing U.S. currency, but I'm allowed to do this because of international waters. I was in international waters when I defaced them, and there's gold fringe on the flag, so that means I can deface currency and make coins, because coins are just better. We'll all be happier when our nickels are turned into coins, and then you will give me $80 for them. Just give me $80. I'm going to be honest. That's all. There's not even a real coin is not anybody else other than me. I'm the one running this one, and I want $80. But I will paint them nice. I promise.
I think Spike Lee is gonna sign on to this project. Actually, that's your sponsor, right?
He did the other one, so I don't see why he would be against coins.
Yeah, I feel like he'd be so into coins.
Right. Yes. Just tell him he can buy Knicks tickets with them.
He does love Knicks tickets.
He does,
you could take the man out of New York City, but you cannot take the Knicks out of the man.
Correct. All right. Well, we've got stuff is happening this week as it does. So we're going to talk about a few things that were in the news this week. And if you, our lovely viewers at home, think that there's something that happened this week that we need to cover, please let us know. We would love to know what else is out there. But we can start with some things that happened. So rich losers are going into space. That's
I mean, okay, so I heard Richard Branson was like barely in space. Like if space was like a woman's body, Richard Branson's rocket would have just like had the tip in and then gotten back out. So he spent all this money.
So you're saying he would still be a virgin?
By some definitions of the term. He's a space virgin. Yes. He spent all this money to not even fuck space.
Yes.
And
I mean, it's the name of his company, so like...
Virgin, you're right. Yes,
so
that's very true. So I don't get it. I don't get the point. There are people dying. Mm-hmm. And also, what's in space? Like some planets, nothing. It sucks. Oh, yeah.
Right.
You should talk. But
no, I was going to say, in general, I think there are uses for exploring space. I think that there is innovations about like how we can be resilient on Earth that come from figuring out how to be resilient in space. But these are not this. This is not like we have an International Space Station. We have like these things. These are vanity projects that are being subsidized by the taxpayer.
Yeah, by our money. It's like I did not want to have this fucking like weird white guy try to fuck space and then like not succeed. Like give me my tax dollar back.
Yes.
And Rachel says I've had sex with a lot of vacuums as well. Richard Branson did not.
Yes. He's afraid of the vacuum.
Yes.
I mean, the vacuum's terrifying. I don't blame you, really. But also, I didn't spend millions of dollars saying I was going to go to space and then just, like, barely, like, float out there in the atmosphere.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard, so from what I've heard, I mean, this is on Twitter, so I don't know if it's true, but it seems to track based on what I know. Mm-hmm. For humans, being in space is hard. Like,
you can't do anything without gravity. You don't realize how much gravity is part of your everyday life.
Yes, like your bones lose so much density because you're in space. When you even pooping is complicated because your poop could float around.
Again, another thing that gravity is always helping you with, and you don't even realize.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, being in space kind of sucks. So I don't know why so many people are spending all this money with the hope that they could be in space for like longer and longer periods of time.
Right.
I mean, if they get like lost up there and then all their money goes to like the people of the world, then sure.
Right.
But it's not a smart use of money, obviously.
Yeah. So I don't know if you saw this today, but the guy who is won an auction to travel up with Jeff Bezos. He spent $28 million at an auction to do that, and now has to cancel due to a scheduling conflict.
What's his scheduling conflict? What, he can't move anything around? What the fuck is a scheduling conflict?
I don't know. If I was like $50 in a hole for like a concert ticket, I would move around my life to make sure that I don't waste that money. This guy's ready to eat $28 million.
Like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Donate it to charity? I don't understand. I mean, don't donate it to charity because charity probably won't use it right. But like, I can't. Yes.
I mean, like, certainly not the type of charity that these type of people would donate to.
Yes, exactly. He's probably doing like ayahuasca and like the Amazon and thinks he's going to have a spiritual experience, you know, like.
Rachel said he's having sex with a volcano.
Maybe he is. I mean, I hope he dies.
Yes. Yeah. So now like an 18-year-old kid is going to go up with Jeff Bezos instead. And I hope he's like a sleeper agent that like once he hits the atmosphere, like his programming will start like a Manchurian Candidate type of thing.
That would be great.
That's my hope. Rachel also mentioned Olivia Rodrigo was at the White House.
I saw that.
Do you have any opinions on that?
I mean, I think celebrity in general is kind of weird, which is something we talk about on the show sometimes. She's like the new like sad pop girl. All the music I listen to is like from like 1995 or earlier. I mean, not all of it, but a large portion of it is. So I've never heard her music.
Right.
I heard she was there to encourage people to get vaccinated, which is something I also want to encourage people to do. So, like, sure, if she gets some 17-year-olds vaccinated, then sure. But, you know, I'm not the target demographic.
I'm skeptical of how much this is actually going to make a difference. First of all, I know kids love Olivia Rodrigo. I listened to some of her music. It seems fine. I think sure, it sounds cool. But it seems to me this is very like Olivia Rodrigo to the polls type of like just like shameless youth pandering that will not result in any difference.
Yeah, I mean, especially if like, because if you're like 18 or if you're 17, your parents still have to sign off on you getting vaccinated. If you have like a crazy mom, then like it's going to be harder. I don't know if it works, then I hope so. There's probably other things that the government could be doing to increase the amount of people being vaccinated, which is like, you know, making it more clear that the vaccines are free, setting up vaccine clinics in places where it's like very accessible to working class people, and also making sure people get paid time off if they do have any side effects from the vaccine. But I feel like Olivia Rodrigo was probably cheaper. So
yeah. That is probably true.
Yeah, that's all that happened.
So what else? Justice Breyer just keeps he loves just talking about how much he doesn't want to step down.
Oh, I mean, they're all old, right? Except for like Sotomayor and the dude that likes beer. Yeah. Yes. I think that. They're all old. Breyer is the senior of the liberal judges. Okay.
And his whole thing seems to just be like, oh, I very much enjoy doing this, so I'm going to do it forever.
He's going to pull out Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Is that what he's going to do?
Yes. I mean, it worked out for her. I mean, I mean, she got to have a cult of personality around herself. And then got to die and not have to live with any of the consequences of the world that we live in. So, like, no, like, what would he see about how she went out and think that, oh, you know, it's like he's like a biblical king, and he's just like I am the one that people worship, and I will be here forever. It's very funny.
It's fucked up. This is why we need to get rid of the Supreme Court.
Right. That's the thing. I almost don't even want to talk about it because like the Supreme Court is such a just like this. Like for like decades, like liberals brought it up as this idea of like the ultimate decider that will save our democracy and every. It's not. Yeah. It's a bunch of old people who have no accountability to anything ever, are shielded from any consequences.
You're so right. Yeah. You're so right.
Yeah, I'm not.
Well, anyway, what else is happening? Any good news?
What? There's a hate crime. Somebody's getting charged for a hate crime for stomping on a Back the Blue flag.
That's not good news. That's the opposite of good news.
That's not. No.
That's bad news. We don't encourage people to do hate crimes, but like if you see a flag,
yes,
that's Back the Blue, and you're mad at it, I feel like you could express that anger, but that's not a hate crime. Don't do a hate crime.
Yes. Cop is not an identity.
Cop is not an identity. It's a profession that you could quit.
Yes. R.I.P. to iconic Boston comedian Nick O'Connor, but he had a very good joke about coming out to your parents as a cop, and I think about that every time. Every time, but I hope somebody somewhere recorded that. But it was one of my favorite because it's not an identity. It's not something you could just. It's a job.
It's a job. It's not helpful.
Yes.
So Rachel is commenting, Olympics continue to suck. Yep, Tokyo is in a state of emergency.
Yep.
Like Sha'Carri Richardson can't run because she smokes some weed, which is stupid. And then all the salmon are boiling. Yep, just another consequence of climate change, just rapidly, just like hitting us in the face.
Real bad news for if you're someone like me who much prefers his fish in a sushi form, because if they're boiling, then how am I going to get my raw fish?
Yeah, exactly. That's true. I heard that like most of the salmon in the country like isn't, or not most, but a sizable portion of the salmon in the U.S. like is not salmon. What is sold as salmon is not. So, less of it is going to be if the salmon are boiling, but also that's also bad for the ecosystem, not just for sushi. But yeah, maybe you just never had salmon in the first place.
Right. Now that you're in my brain, I guess if we want to talk about good news, everybody in England was sad this weekend because they lost the beautiful game.
But then they were racist towards people, right? Is that what happened?
Yeah, like immediately afterwards, they had to put out like a press thing about like don't be racist just because. So basically, the idea it was a tie because nobody ever scores in soccer. So it went into penalty kicks, and each team chooses their 5 best players to kick penalties. And for whatever reason, rather than choosing the veterans, the English coach chose like three black guys who were all like 23 and under. Mm-hmm. So like on the world stage for the first time, and some of them got the yips and some of them did not get their goals.
Wait, the yips? The what?
Yeah, that just means they got in their head.
I have never heard that term. Okay. I was like, is that a slur? Wait, what?
I can see why you might think that, but no, it's just that they got in their own head and they couldn't couldn't make their shots. So then there was like immediate, as soon as that happened, they were like, uh-oh, there's going to be some racism coming. So immediately they had to tell people not to do that. And they still probably did. But for like a second, it was very nice to see the royal family sad.
Yes, it is nice to see British people sad.
Yes.
It seems like I heard another thing is that another thing that happened is that like apparently whenever England loses, the rates of domestic violence rise.
They also had to
also messed up.
They
it's
also
like,
like yeah.
Yeah, British people, if you're upset about a soccer game, one, get a life. Two, like, just take it out on yourself. Like, don't hurt other people.
Is that they always lose. Like, anybody who's old enough to remember them winning is like 90. Like, they never win the Euros. They never win the World Cup. Like, in years it's been. Yeah. So, like, you should be used to this, but instead you're just an asshole.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. Mm-hmm. British people, stop beating people up because your football game lost.
Yeah.
God.
But hey, paisa!
The wondrous land of Italy, the proletariat of Italy, won out against the imperial oppressors of Britain and England, or I guess Great Britain. I guess it's all of Britain.
No, it's England because soccer is so old that Scotland and Wales play as their own team.
Oh, wow. Okay. Because I also saw like Irish people being like, yeah, like this is my time to shine because like fuck the English.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So that's I guess that's like British people losing is a good note. Not British people beating up minorities and women. Right. British people losing.
Yes.
So let's end it on a high note. And Zach, do you have any closing remarks?
I do have some closing remarks. So as some of you may know, when I find the stories of the week, one of my favorite sites to go to is CNN because CNN makes me ask a lot of thought-provoking questions like, what is a journalist and why are any of these people paid? And today, as I was looking for stories, there was a story, Police Academy star wows on America's Got Talent. And I'm like, this can't be right. That movie is like 40 years old. And believe it or not, it was Michael Winslow, a guy who like everybody knows, who has been around forever doing the funny voices and noises and stuff, was on America's Got Talent for some reason. And that confused, like, what is that show even supposed to be? It like made me like think, what is it supposed to be? And I'm thinking like, maybe it's like sarcastic, like America's Got Talent. Yeah, right. Because all of the judges are from different countries. Like it's Heidi Klum and Howie Mandel and Sofia Vergara and Simon Cowell, who are all not natural born Americans. So like maybe the joke is like America is supposed to prove that it has some sort of a culture in front of people who are just going to ridicule it. And if that's the thing that it is, it should lean into that more. They should be meaner to America on that show and really show the cultural void of nothingness that is Americans' attempts at culture, which is why, like, 6 of the winners of the show, I feel like, have been ventriloquists. America has no talent and no redeeming qualities.
Man, that's amazing. What a lovely note to end on. America has no redeeming qualities. Mm-hmm. That's the central thesis of the show. Thank you so much for your closing remarks, Zach, and thank you everyone for watching. As always, 2MB Studios has a Patreon. You could sign up for it. And we are here every week, 7:30, just spouting some like communist propaganda. So if you're interested, come back next week and we'll see you then.